I gave her everything. My savings, my dignity, my future. I thought I was building a life with her, but I wasn't her partner. I was her retirement plan. And by the time I realized it, I had nothing left, not even the strength to go home. I was sitting alone at a beachside restaurant in Puerto Galera when she first walked up to my table. The sun was setting over the water and I was nursing my second San Miguel, watching couples walk hand in hand along the shore. 3 years since Margaret died and I still couldn't get used to eating dinner alone. I'd been traveling through the Philippines for 6 months, trying to fill the silence in my head with new places and new faces. It wasn't working. She appeared beside me with a menu in her hand and a smile that actually reached her eyes. "Good evening, sir. Are you ready to order?" Her voice was soft and warm. I looked up, and for a moment I forgot I was supposed to be looking at the menu. Yes. What do you recommend?" I asked, fumbling with the laminated pages. She laughed gently and leaned in just slightly. "The grilled fish is very fresh today, and the mango shake, it's the best on the island, my personal favorite." "Then I'll trust you," I said, handing back the menu. "That sounds perfect." She wrote it down and then she did something unexpected. She didn't walk away. "You're here alone?" she asked, and there was genuine curiosity in her voice, not pity. "Yes, just me. I'm traveling for a while, seeing what's out there." "That's brave," she said. "Most people are afraid to travel alone, especially at your age." She paused and covered her mouth quickly. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean—" No, it's fine," I laughed. "I am old, 69 last month. No point pretending otherwise." She smiled again, more relaxed this time. "You don't seem old. You seem, I don't know, alive, like you're still looking for something." I stared at her, caught off guard by how right she was. "Maybe I am," I said quietly. "I'm Diana, by the way. I work here most nights. Philip, from Australia, Canberra. Nice to meet you, Philip from Canberra." She glanced back at the kitchen. "I should get your order in, but if you want company later, I finish my shift in an hour. Sometimes I sit by the water when it's slow." I nodded, trying not to seem too eager. "I might take a walk later. See if I run into you." She gave me one last smile and walked away. I watched her go, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Stupid, reckless hope. I finished my meal slowly, letting the hour pass without checking my watch too often. When I walked down to the beach, she was there, sitting on a low wall with her shoes off, looking out at the dark water. "You came," she said when she saw me. "I did." "Sit with me?" I sat. We talked about nothing and everything. She asked me about Australia, about my life, about why I was here. I told her about Margaret, about the engineering firm I'd run for 30 years, about how empty the house felt after she was gone. Diana listened, really listened. She didn't offer empty condolences or change the subject. She just nodded and said, "That must be so hard, to lose someone you built your whole life with." "It is," I admitted. "I don't know who I am without her." "Maybe that's why you're here," Diana said softly, "to find out." We exchanged numbers that night. I told myself it was just kindness, that she was just a friendly local being nice to a lonely tourist. But when I walked back to my hotel, I couldn't stop smiling. Over the next 2 weeks, Diana and I saw each other almost every day. She'd finish her shift, and we'd walk along the beach, talking until the sky started to lighten. She told me about her life in Laguna, about growing up poor, about her dreams of studying nursing but never having the money to finish. She told me about her father who was getting old and sick, about her older sister who practically raised her. She didn't ask me for anything. She just shared herself. And I found myself wanting to share everything back. One night, we were caught in a sudden rainstorm. We ran laughing into a small shelter on the beach, soaked through and breathless. Diana shivered, and I offered her my jacket. She wrapped it around herself and looked up at me with those dark eyes. "You're so kind, Philip. I don't meet many kind men." "You deserve kindness," I said, and I meant it. She reached up and touched my face. "You make me feel safe, like I don't have to pretend to be stronger than I am." I didn't think. I just leaned down and kissed her. She kissed me back, soft and slow, and for the first time since Margaret died, I felt alive. When we finally pulled apart, she whispered, "Stay longer. Please don't go back to Australia yet." "I won't," I heard myself say. "I'll stay." That night, lying in my hotel bed, I started imagining a future, a real future. Maybe I didn't have to grow old alone. Maybe there was still time for happiness. Maybe Diana was the second chance I didn't know I needed. I extended my visa the next morning. 3 weeks later, Diana asked if I wanted to meet her family. "They've been asking about you," she said shyly. "I told them about the Australian man who makes me happy. My sister wants to cook for you." I was nervous but honored. We took a bus to Laguna, and I watched the landscape change from tourist beaches to rural roads, small houses with tin roofs, and children playing in the dirt. Diana pointed out landmarks, squeezed my hand, told me not to worry. "They'll love you," she promised. Her family home was modest. Concrete walls, mismatched furniture, a small kitchen that smelled like garlic and fish sauce. Her older sister Lorna greeted us at the door with a wide smile. "Sir Philip, welcome, welcome. Come in, please." She was warm and bustling, immediately offering me a seat, a drink, food. A man I assumed was her husband sat quietly in the corner, nodding at me politely. Diana introduced him as Kuya Ben, her brother. "Brother?" I asked Diana quietly. "Half-brother," she clarified. "Different fathers. It's complicated." An older man appeared from a back room, moving slowly, one hand on the wall for support. "Papa, this is Philip," Diana said gently. The man, Mang Rudy, extended a weathered hand, and I shook it carefully. "You take care of my Diana?" he asked in broken English. "I try to, sir. She's very special." He nodded, satisfied, and called me sir for the rest of the visit. We sat down to lunch, and Lorna served heaping plates of food. Rice, grilled fish, vegetables, more than I could possibly eat. The conversation flowed easily, with Diana translating when needed. Lorna talked about her children, about the neighborhood, about how proud they were of Diana for working so hard. Then, almost casually, she mentioned the struggles. "The roof needs fixing before rainy season, and Papa's medicine is so expensive now. We try our best, but sometimes it's not enough." I saw Diana tense beside me. Don't." "It's okay," I interrupted. "I'd like to help, if you'll let me, with the roof, with the medicine, whatever you need." Lorna's eyes widened. "Sir, no, that's too much. We can't ask." "You're not asking. I'm offering." Diana looked at me with tears in her eyes. "Philip, you don't have to. I want to," I said firmly. And I meant it. This family had welcomed me. They were Diana's family, and helping them felt like the most meaningful thing I'd done in years. When we left, Lorna hugged me tightly and whispered, "You are so kind, sir. God bless you." I felt 10 feet tall walking back to the bus. Diana held my arm and kept saying thank you, over and over. I told her to stop thanking me, that this is what people do for the ones they care about. That night, lying in my hotel room, I made a decision. I was staying in the Philippines, really staying. I started looking for apartments in Manila, something more permanent than a hotel. I wanted to build something real here, with Diana. 2 months later, I'd rented a small condo in Manila, and Diana had moved in with me. We talked about the future constantly. I suggested she quit her waitressing job, that I could support her while she studied nursing like she'd always wanted. She was hesitant at first. "Philip, I don't want you to feel like I'm using you." "Using me?" "Diana, you've given me more happiness in 3 months than I've had in 3 years. Let me do this for you. Let me invest in your future." She cried and hugged me and said yes. But then she had another idea. What if I opened a small sorry store? Something I could manage, something that could grow. I could work for myself. I loved the idea. It felt more sustainable, more independent. We found a small space near her sister's place in Laguna. I wired 15,000 Australian dollars to get it started. Stock, shelving, permits, everything she'd need. Diana was overjoyed. She threw herself into planning it, making lists, calling suppliers. I'd never seen her so excited. Around the same time, a real estate agent named Mr. Santos reached out to me. Someone had mentioned I was looking to invest in the Philippines. He showed me properties, small lots near the beach, potential rental income, future development. This area is growing fast, sir. In 5 years, this will triple in value. Diana came with me to view a beachfront lot. She stood at the edge of the property looking out at the water and said, "This could be our future home, Philip. When we're ready, our future home." The words made my chest tight with happiness. I started seriously considering it. The lot wasn't cheap, but my pension was solid, and I had savings. I could make it work. But small things started to shift. Diana was around less. She said she was busy with the store, with paperwork, with her family. I believed her. But she was always on her phone now, typing quickly and turning the screen away when I came near. "Who are you texting?" I asked one night, trying to sound casual. "Just ate Lorna. She's helping with the store inventory." At 11 at night? Diana looked up, irritated. "Why are you questioning me? Do you not trust me now?" No, I trust you. I'm sorry. I don't know. I miss you. You've been distant." She softened. "I'm sorry. I'm just stressed with everything. The store, my family, making sure I don't disappoint you. It's a lot." I pulled her into a hug. "You could never disappoint me." She kissed my cheek and went to bed early. I sat up alone, scrolling through my phone, trying to ignore the uneasy feeling in my gut. I checked my bank account. 15,000 for the store. Another 3,000 here and there for supplies. I'd sent money for the roof, for medicine, for Lorna's kids' school fees. It was adding up. But I told myself this was temporary. Once the store was running, once things stabilized, it would be fine. Then Diana called me at 2 in the morning, sobbing, "Philip, please, I need your help. It's my father. He collapsed. They took him to the hospital." I was awake instantly. "What happened? Is he okay?" "They don't know yet. They need to do surgery. But Philip, we don't have the money. The hospital wants 250,000 pesos before they'll operate. We can't afford it. I don't know what to do." My mind raced. 250,000 pesos, about 6,500 Australian dollars. It was a lot. But it was her father's life. "I'll send it," I said immediately. "First thing in the morning. Tell them it's coming." "Philip, no, I can't ask you. You're not asking. I'm telling you. Your father is going to be okay. I'll take care of it." She cried harder. "I don't deserve you. Thank you. Thank you so much." I wired the money at sunrise. Diana texted me updates throughout the day. Surgery went well. Papa was stable. She was so grateful. She promised she'd pay me back. I told her not to worry about it. That family comes first. But 2 weeks later, another call came. Kuya Ben had lost his job. Could I help with rent for a few months until he found something new? I sent $2,000. Then Lorna's daughter needed tuition for a special program. Another 1,500. Then the store needed emergency repairs after a storm. 3,000 more. Each time, Diana was apologetic, emotional, promising it was the last time. And each time, I sent the money. Because this is what you do when you love someone. You help, you sacrifice, you build together. But I was getting tired. The requests were constant now. I was dipping into my retirement savings, money I'd carefully planned to last me another 20 years. I started eating cheaper meals, skipping taxis, making small cuts. I told myself it was temporary, that once the store turned a profit, once Kuya Ben found work, once Papa recovered, it would stop. I sat down with my laptop one night and calculated everything. I'd spent over 40,000 Australian dollars in 4 months. My chest felt tight. I couldn't breathe properly. I closed the laptop and stared at the wall. Diana was asleep in the bedroom. Her phone buzzed on the counter. Once, twice, 3 times. I glanced at it. The screen lit up with a message preview. A man's name, Ian. The message said, "Miss you. See you tomorrow?" My stomach dropped. I picked up the phone. It was locked. I put it back down. I walked to the bedroom doorway and watched Diana sleep. She looked peaceful, innocent. I told myself Ian could be anyone. A friend, a cousin. I was being paranoid, insecure, but I couldn't sleep that night. I lay there in the dark, listening to her breathe, and wondered if I was losing my mind. The next morning, my neighbor Tess knocked on my door. She was a Filipino-Australian woman, late 50s, who'd lived in Manila for a decade. She'd always been friendly but distant. "Philip, do you have a minute? I made too much coffee." I followed her to her condo. We sat on her balcony and she poured me a cup. "How are you settling in?" she asked. "Good, really good. Diana and we're building something." Tess nodded slowly. "Diana? She's the young woman I see coming and going?" "Yes, we're together." "I see." She sipped her coffee. "Philip, I hope I'm not overstepping, but how much has she asked you for?" I stiffened. "Excuse me? Money? How much have you given her?" "That's none of your business, Tess." "You're right, it's not. But I've lived here a long time. I've seen this before. Older foreign men, young local women. It doesn't always end well." I stood up, angry now. "Diana isn't like that. She loves me. We're building a future together." "I'm sure she's lovely, Philip. But love and need can look very similar. Just be careful. That's all I'm saying." "Thanks for the coffee," I said coldly and left. I was furious. How dare she? She didn't know Diana. She didn't know us. But that night, I couldn't stop thinking about what Tess said. Diana had canceled our dinner plans. She said she had to help Lorna with something urgent. She'd been vague about when she'd be back. I sat alone in the condo and looked around. This place didn't feel like mine. Diana's things were everywhere, but mine barely made a mark. I opened my banking app. $42,000. Gone. In 4 months. I felt sick. I walked to the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face. When I came back out, Diana's phone was buzzing again. On the counter, screen up, another message from Ian. "Can't wait to see you tonight, baby. Baby." I stood there, frozen, staring at the screen. The phone locked again. I felt like the floor was falling out from under me. But I didn't confront her. I was too afraid. Afraid of what she'd say. Afraid of being wrong. Afraid of being right. So I did nothing. I just waited for her to come home. She came back after midnight, smelling like cigarettes and someone else's cologne. "How was Lorna?" I asked. "Fine. Stressful. The usual." She kicked off her shoes and headed to the bedroom. "I'm exhausted. Good night." She didn't kiss me, didn't ask about my day, just disappeared into the bedroom and closed the door. I sat on the couch until sunrise, staring at nothing. 2 days later, I made a decision. I was going to surprise her, bring flowers, take her to lunch, remind her why we were doing this. I took a bus to Laguna, to her family's house. I bought a bouquet of roses from a street vendor and practiced what I'd say. "I love you. I'm here for you. We'll get through this together." I turned the corner to her street and saw her standing outside the house. She was with a man, young, fit, probably early 30s. They were laughing. She leaned in and kissed him. Not a friendly peck, a real kiss, the kind she used to give me. I stopped walking. I couldn't move. My chest felt like it was caving in. I watched them. He squeezed her waist and whispered something in her ear. She giggled. Then he walked away, throwing a glance back at her, smiling. She watched him go, touched her lips, and turned toward the house. That's when she saw me. Her face went white. "Philip, what are you? Why are you here?" I walked up to her slowly. The flowers felt heavy in my hand. "Who was that?" "Who? That was nobody. Just a friend." "A friend?" "Yes, a neighbor." He was just, "Diana, stop." She looked at the ground. "Philip." "Who is he?" She was quiet for a long time. Then she whispered, "Ian. His name is Ian." "Your boyfriend?" She didn't answer. She didn't have to. I could see it in her face. The guilt, the resignation, the truth she'd been hiding. "How long?" I asked. 2 years, she said quietly. 2 years. I felt like I was underwater. Everything was muffled and slow. So the whole time we've been together, you've been with him. Philip, It's not like that. Then what is it like, Diana? Explain it to me. She looked up, and there were tears in her eyes, but her voice was steady. We needed help. My family needed help. Papa was sick. The store was a dream I couldn't afford. You were kind. You wanted to help. I didn't mean to hurt you. You used me. I cared about you, she said, and her voice cracked. I do care about you. But he's my age. He's from here. He understands my life. We were never going to, she trailed off. Never going to what? Be real? Have a future? She didn't answer. I dropped the flowers on the ground. Did any of it mean anything? Any of it? Some of it did, she whispered. At first. But then it got complicated. My family needed more. Ian needed things. I thought I could manage both. I don't know what I thought. I turned and started walking. My legs felt weak. Diana called after me. Philip, wait. I'm sorry. Please, let me explain. I didn't stop. I kept walking until I reached the main road. I flagged down a jeepney and climbed in, squeezing between strangers who paid me no attention. I rode back to Manila in silence, staring out the window, trying to breathe. When I got back to the condo, I went straight to my laptop. I opened my bank accounts. $52,000. Gone. Money I'd saved for decades. Money that was supposed to carry me through retirement, through medical bills, through old age. Gone. I'd given it all to a woman who was never mine, to a family that saw me as a wallet, to a life that was never real. I sat on the balcony and looked out at the city. Manila stretched out before me, glittering and indifferent. I thought about every moment with Diana, every smile, every touch, every I love you. Were any of them real? Or was I just a lonely old man who wanted so badly to believe that someone could love him that I ignored every red flag? I replayed it all, the vague answers, the constant requests, the phone always face down, the nights she disappeared. It was all there. I just refused to see it. I didn't cry. I couldn't. I just sat there, numb, watching the sun set over a city that had taken everything from me. Diana texted me that night, then the next day, then the day after that. Long paragraphs, apologies, explanations. She said she never wanted to hurt me, that life was hard, that she did what she had to do, that I was a good man and deserved better. I didn't respond. I couldn't. What was there to say? A week later, I finally replied. Just 3 words. I hope it was worth it. Then I blocked her number, deleted her photos, removed her from every part of my phone, my laptop, my life. I called Mr. Santos and canceled the property deal. I couldn't afford it anymore anyway. I started looking for cheaper apartments, something smaller, something I could afford on what little I had left. I moved into a studio apartment on the outskirts of Manila. No view, no balcony, just 4 walls and a bed. I started eating instant noodles, taking the cheapest transportation, cutting every expense I could. I couldn't afford to go home to Australia, not yet. My pension wouldn't cover the flight and the cost of resettling. I was stuck, alone, broke, ashamed. I thought about calling my daughter back in Canberra, but I couldn't face it. What would I say? That I'd fallen for a woman 40 years younger? That I'd given her everything? That I was stupid enough to believe someone like her could love someone like me? I couldn't handle the judgment, the pity. So I stayed silent. I sat in that tiny apartment and realized the truth. I'd given everything to a stranger, my savings, my dignity, my future, and I had nothing left. 6 months passed. I found work online, freelance engineering consultations, small jobs, barely enough to survive. I rarely left my apartment. I watched the city from my window and wondered how I'd gotten here. I thought about Margaret. Would she be disappointed in me? Would she understand? I wanted to believe she'd understand, that she'd know I was just lonely, that I was just trying to find something worth living for. One afternoon, there was a knock on my door. I opened it and found Tess standing there with a plastic bag of food. I heard you moved, she said. Thought you might be hungry. I let her in. We sat at my small table and she unpacked containers of rice, meat, vegetables, real food, food I hadn't been able to afford in weeks. You were right, I said finally. About Diana. About all of it. Tess nodded. I wish I wasn't. I was a fool. You were lonely, she said gently. That's not the same thing. I knew better. I knew the risks. But I wanted it to be real so badly that I ignored everything. Tess reached across the table and touched my hand. You're still here, Philip. That's something. I looked at her. This woman who tried to warn me, who had no reason to care, who showed up anyway. Why are you being kind to me? I asked. Because kindness is free, and because you deserve it. We sat in silence for a while, eating. It was the first real meal I'd had in months. When Tess left, she made me promise to call her if I needed anything. I promised, even though I knew I probably wouldn't. But it helped. Just knowing someone remembered I existed. I don't know if I'll ever make it back to Australia. My pension barely covers rent and food. I'm surviving, not living. I'm smaller now, quieter, invisible. I spend my days working from my laptop and my nights staring at the ceiling. I think about Diana sometimes. Wonder if she thinks about me. Wonder if Ian knows where his motorcycle came from. Where the new roof on her family's house came from. Where any of it came from. Probably not. I'm not angry anymore. I don't have the energy for anger. I'm just tired. I gave everything for a dream that was never mine. I played the part she needed me to play. The generous foreigner. The lonely savior. The easy mark. And I played it perfectly. People say you can't buy love. They're right. But loneliness makes you forget that. It makes you believe that maybe, just maybe, if you give enough, if you're kind enough, if you're generous enough, someone will stay. But they won't. Not if it was never real to begin with. I look out my window now and watch people moving through the city. Young couples holding hands, families laughing together, old men sitting alone at cafes. I'm one of them now. The ghost everyone looks past. And maybe that's all I have left. This small room, this quiet life, this awareness that I'll probably die here, alone, broke, forgotten. But Tess was right. I'm still here. I'm still breathing. And maybe that's something. Maybe it's enough. Maybe it has to be, because it's all I've got.